All right, thank you all for joining us. We have from the Dynasty Dugout, Chris Clegg. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you both for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
We are too. We are baseball fanatics, but I think dynasty, prospects is kind of our blind spot in a way. Other than our teams, we love our teams. We'll go down that rabbit hole,
Sure.
but we aren't the best at talking about the Padres' third best prospect, right? So we look forward to this, and they just announced the draft, right? So that's your wheelhouse, I assume, right? How is this your Christmas? Tell us how things are going over there.
Yeah, so the lottery is a lot of fun. It's kind of changed the game a little bit. Tried
Mhm.
to prevent tanking from teams. Like the A's and White Sox will not pick in the top 10 this year just because of the fact that one, they don't pay into, or their payers or payees, excuse, they don't pay into the revenue sharing. And you can't pick in the top 10 3 straight years if you're not paying in. So, next year I think the Nationals won't be able to pick again in the top. And there's one other. The Cardinals may not be able to, but yeah, so it's always an interesting dynamic. And then this year it was Wild West again. Last year the Guardians jumped, had like a 2% chance of getting the number one pick. And while it wasn't as crazy, the Nationals had like a 10% chance. I think they had the fourth best odds, but we saw the Marlins have the best odds for the first overall pick, and they fell to 7, which is a brutal blow to an organization that really needs that pick.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
the Rockies also had the top odds. They went to fourth. We saw the Nationals get the first pick. We saw the Mariners jump. They had like the 17th best odds, and they went to number 3, which was
Yeah, I saw the
wild.
Mariners are top three. Yeah, good for you, Chris. Chris is a big Mariners guy.
They
Yeah.
had
So
no chance. They had like a 0.5% chance of the top pick or something.
They just were like kept floating. That's they're announcing it's like, this is getting kind of wild.
Are
So
they in this? Do they forget about us?
yeah, it makes it a lot of fun for sure.
interesting, interesting. So the Nationals will be out of it, but they get the number one pick this year. Is it worth it, or like who's going to be that guy that comes off the board first?
Yeah, it's an interesting draft class. There's no, I mean, you've got your guys that are the top. Obviously, Ethan
Mm.
Holiday, Jackson's brother. You've got
Right.
Jace Laviolette from Texas A&M, big outfield. He's 6'5", 240, massive power, but he's a
Yeah.
good athlete. Like he moves extremely well. I saw him a couple times this year, and he's incredible. So he's probably the safest bet to go with the top. Holiday's got the name pedigree. He's got the upside. He's significantly bigger than Jackson. He's already 6'4", over 200
Oh,
pounds. He's
wow.
Good
just
Lord.
he's got
So
the juice. He's like his dad more so. And so like
Oh,
he's
I
got
like
the
that.
yeah.
yeah,
So
definitely.
he's a lot of fun. I don't think we see an arm go. There's several arms. You've got Tyler Bremner with UC Santa Barbara, Jamie Arnold with Florida State, a couple prep arms, Seth Hernandez, right-hander out of California, and Cameron Appenzeller, lefty at Tennessee. But probably don't see those guys go one. It's just, so much happens in the next seven
Oh
months.
yeah.
So it's going to be crazy. But right now, like those are some of the top names.
Gotcha. So
While while we're on draft, where does Cam Cannarella go? Clemson guy, local guy
Yeah.
for us. Do we see him go top 10, top 5? I see him kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I think it depends on how the bat comes around this year. I mean,
Okay.
you're getting a surefire, like stud center fielder. He's a good athlete, good speed, great glove. But, ultimately, like, what's a team buying there? Like, are they willing to sacrifice some pop? Like, he's going to hit for average. He's going to give you some speed on the base paths. But, how much power does he get to? Like, he's hit home runs, but the exit velocities they're okay. So it'll be interesting. I think top 10 certainly in play. It's just how does he come back? He had an injury at the end of the year,
Hmm.
had surgery, so it'll be interesting. Certainly tracking that one because he is going to be first rounder for sure, potentially top 15, top 10 range. I think.
Give me Pete Crow Armstrong type. That's what
Yeah,
he sounded like to me.
yeah,
So we'll take maybe not as fast. Crow Armstrong's a demon. So,
yeah,
but we'll take that for sure.
So obviously we are all here in Greenville, South Carolina, right? So the Greenville driver here. I think one of the questions I wanted to ask are what are players that we should be excited about here locally, and which players should we come like the first half of the season because they're not going to be here long because they're so good.
I think that the one that's going to move the quickest if he doesn't go straight to AA, is probably Braden Montgomery, who was the Red Sox first rounder. He got injured in the postseason last year, so he did not play again the rest of the 2024 season. My hunch and what I've been told is that he probably will be here, but it's probably going to be like a month because he's incredible, but he'll move quick. So Montgomery's just an advanced college bat, and so he'll move super fast. I think you got to see him pretty early. The team was definitely down this year in 2024's comparison to previous seasons. Like, we've seen a ton of good talent come through with Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer. Kyle Teal was here 2 weeks, so not very long, but he was here nonetheless. So, but there are some guys. They've got some international guys that will be coming up, and Franklin Arias is probably a mid-season call-up, I guess. He made it to single A last year. Young shortstop. They've also got Yoelan Cespedes, who he was slated to debut in Salem last year. He broke his hamate literally upon being promoted from complex to single A, but he'll get here at some point. So he's certainly exciting to follow. I think from the pitching side, you'll see Peyton Tolley that they drafted second round last year out of TCU. He's big 6'5" lefty.
So that's a tall guy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's massive. Yeah. Just big old boy. Heavy. He's got 7'4" of extension. It's just ridiculous profile. So yeah, there'll be some guys. I think it'll be a better team next year than it was in 2024.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. I mean, it's fun to watch local baseball, and it's also way more fun when they win. So
yeah.
So April Drive baseball. We'll see you there early and often. Love to see that. Yep. So are you personally a Red Sox fan? Is that kind of where this all sprung from? Like, obviously, you're a huge prospects guy. We're in Greenville. You're getting the up and coming of Red Sox. Who are you rooting for the most, I guess, in major leagues? But like, is that how you got into this whole thing?
I'm a Braves fan growing up just in this area. So Braves guy, no care really for the Red Sox, like in any sense other than like I do some work for Sox prospects, just being local, just having the affiliate here, which it just kind of worked out that way. So like starting out, like, I don't know, I always loved minor league ball, always loved going to the park. And I just kind of feel like I had an eye for like evaluating young talent. I remember back in 2018, it's kind of one of those moments where it was like, okay, well, I guess over time you see that, but the Drive were playing West Virginia Power, which was a Mariners affiliate at the time. They had Logan Gilbert, they had Jared Kelnick, they had Julio Rodriguez. Ooh. At that point, like Julio Rodriguez wasn't really talked about much. Logan Gilbert was, he was fine, but like Kelnick was obviously all the buzz. But I just remember seeing J-Rod and was kind of like, man, this guy's like just different than everybody else. And so it's like kind of started perking my interest as he progressed and got better. And so then I kind of always just like wanted to go and like see those guys and try to figure out who would be the next big thing. And like really I just gotten into it through fantasy baseball, just playing for a long time and really enjoying that avenue. And then that led to some wanting to go deeper and getting into deep dynasty leagues, like a 30-team dynasty with like 50 minor league spots. So it's like at that point you have to dig deep. And it's like I've got to find a prospect that nobody knows about to try to hit on these guys. And so that just kind of sprung the interest and passion. And as I dug up minor leaguers that turned into stuff, I was like, there's something here. So I just kind of began to write about him and wrote a blog that nobody read and like started in 2019. And eventually it evolved. Like I started writing for various outlets and, kind of led to just wanting to launch my own site and kind of see where it went. And the rest is kind of history there.
That's awesome. So given that history, who's your biggest I told you so?
Oh, well, this year is probably Christian Campbell, the Red Sox. Like he was a nobody. I just had some good insight to some sources. Was at spring training in the backfields, and he had a swing change. Nobody cared a lick about him. He was a fourth round out of Georgia Tech that wasn't good in college. He had a good hit tool and nothing else. But then now he was Baseball America's minor league player of the year. Roman Anthony was another one. I liked Roman Anthony in the draft. Like he went later. It was like 60, 70 overall range. But Anthony was just one I watched as a prep, and he had massive pop. He had a good frame, good athleticism. So that one was obviously one that I was kind of in on, and Heath Vlasic, he's number one prospect in baseball this year.
Yep.
The
Yep.
J Rod one was always there but that was before I rode or anything of that nature. So that one, not really like my call or anything. So it's
Yeah,
not like
that's
I
not
put
on
it
the
out
book.
there in
That
the
one's not on the
public.
books.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
We'll,
every
we'll
year
give you
now, like
Campbell.
people
Yeah,
always ask
Campbell for
every year,
sure.
it's like, who's the next blank? So now it's kind of become like, who's this year's Roman Anthony? So like the guy for this coming year, I picked is Griffin Burkholder with the Phillies. So,
Okay.
prep outfielder. He's a kind of tools up guy. He's just, I think he's got that mold of Roman Anthony where he's got the power. He's got like 70 grade run tool. He's got good contact. Like, seems like he's one that's going to pop off, and not really much buzz around that name.
Gotcha. As a Braves fan, I hate to hear that, but that's
Yeah.
good. That's good to hear.
We're just drawing all types of player comps here. We've got Cam Cannarella being Pete Crow Armstrong. What the hell is that guy's? I don't even remember that guy's name. Griffin. I tried to write it down. I
Griffin
can't even.
Burkholder.
I had nothing on Burkholder. I had Griffin right.
Yeah, there you
Uh,
go.
man. So you're in these dynasty leagues, and that kind of sparks this interest for, these super deep dives. I mean, I'm looking through your blog like as we speak. You're
Mhm.
talking top 30 prospects from every team, and sure, like Baseball America does it too, and they're probably just aggregating a list and all that. Or not Baseball America, MLB.com is where I usually look just to
Mhm.
screw around and be like, oh, that guy's available. I'll add him. But like, I guess the first question being, how many leagues are you actually in? And are they all as in depth as what you just said? Like, just are they all different? Do you do 1 year leagues at the major league level and just be like, all right,
Yeah, it's a variety. There's a decent amount of redraft and probably too many. And that's something like I've had to cut back. Like having a second child this past year, like it was much different. And so like our son, he was super easy, like from the get go. And our daughter's 6 months now, and she's definitely been a new challenge for sure. So that's been a new dynamic in all the work I do, plus the playing side of fantasy too. So
Mhm.
I think I did like 22 leagues last year,
Woo!
which it's it's not so it's not as bad as it sounds, because a decent portion of them were draft and holds, which is basically you
Yeah.
draft 50 players at the beginning of the year and then you just have to set the lineup each week. So
okay,
not as bad as it seems, but
that's
from a
not bad.
dynasty standpoint, I think like seven, and it's a variety. Some of them are like
Mhm.
shallow 10 team leagues or like the league that I kind of first started in is a 10 team that has six prospects. So it's not very
Oh,
deep,
Mhm.
that's
but
not bad.
I've got a variety where there's some 20 team, which much deeper player pool. The sweet spot's kind of like 15 teams, I think.
Yeah.
So 15 is kind of a sweet spot to get deep enough, but it's not too shallow. It's still plenty of fun. There's still guys to add to, like guys pop off, you can add them kind of thing if you're
Right.
quick enough.
Yeah.
In those shallow leagues, are you just getting the itch to just add some random guy nobody's heard about and be like, like the ultimate, I was right on this guy. Like
Yeah.
nobody would ever pick him up, but he's on your team.
Yeah, that's the thing about the home dynasty league that I'm in is like you can only pick up prospects during the draft, and so most people are just drafting guys that are super close to the majors. But I kind
Yeah.
of just like zig and get the guys that are like, I drafted Sebastian Walcott 2 years ago, and
Okay.
he was 17 at the time. But it's like, all right, only 60 prospects are rostered. Like, why would you do that? Because I think he could be the number one prospect in baseball. Like that's kind of why. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think that's always a lot of fun to kind of just grab those guys and see where it goes.
Yeah, and
And if
everybody
you
thinks
miss
you're
out,
crazy,
who
right? Because
cares?
you're
Like,
really going down the list, right? You're like, oh, the top 30 were taken. Let me see. Oh, I could grab the 40th guy. Great. And you're probably like, oh, I got like the 30th prospect in the Angel system that I think might be good, but let me add him. I love that thought process. So we'll jump off Dynasty Baseball for a second. We might jump back, but I want to jump into, you have all these lists, you have all of these prospects, you have them
Mhm.
numbered. Can you give us maybe, we'll say three players, we'll just say from each league that you think are going to make an impact this season at the major league level?
just like from a prospect standpoint.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they maybe they just graduated from prospect
Sure.
status. We'll leave it open to interpretation. I'm not gonna
Sure.
ding in, be like, we'll let you open the floor from here.
Yeah. I mean, let's start with Roman Anthony. I think that
Yep.
you look at the Red Sox outfield and it's been a crowded situation, but it's not been all that crowded in a great way. And now
Right.
Tyler O'Neill's out of the picture. He's signed with Baltimore. They're actively trying to trade Masataka Yoshida, who just can basically DH at this point, but it's a lineup spot. I think Anthony's more than ready. He brings a unique blend of power, on base skills, good speed. Like he had one of the highest bat speeds in all of baseball last year at 20 years old, which is kind of wild. And it shows in the power. I mean, his EVs are off the charts. He makes plenty of contact. Like I think he's more than ready, and he's a good outfielder too. Like if you saw him in Greenville, like nobody talked about his defense, but he made plays in center field that he shouldn't have made. Just an incredible defender. He's not going to play center in Boston, which he could, but they've got Ceddanne Rafaela, but he'll be great over in a right field spot. So I think Roman Anthony probably is a big one. On the flip side, like you go to the National League, like Andrew Painter with the Phillies,
Ooh, okay.
he was slated to start out of spring training with them in 2023 when he was still 19. He blew out his arm, had to have TJ. He just came back to action in the Arizona Fall League. I saw him pitch there. I mean, the stuff is back. Like command comes with time, but considering where he was and where he is, I mean, he's right there. He had 100, still averaging 97, 98 on the fastball. He's got a great slider, good curve and change. It's a just incredible arsenal. And the fact that he's 6'7", he's just a workhorse type frame. The Phillies are kind of slow playing it, saying, we don't know when he'll be up. Like it may be a month, but this gives them their best chance to win. He's significantly better than Taijuan Walker.
Yeah.
I think if he's not up on opening day, it's late April. So you see, he'll probably make a pretty big impact. Dylan Cruz, the Nationals. I know the NL East is kind of like the Braves feel like they've been left behind with prospect stuff, but I mean, they trade their guys and get MLB guys. So it's what they do. But the Nationals, they landed the number 1 pick this year. They got Dylan Cruz several years ago with the number 2 pick. Cruz made his debut. He's just solid all around. I won't say he's like a superstar that people thought he might be out of LSU, but he's got power. He's got a good field to hit. He's going to get on base. He's going to steal bags. He plays a good outfield. So Cruz is going to be up on opening day, considering he debuted very end of last year and make a big impact. So it's another, I guess, National League guy. Going down the list a little bit, it kind of drops off some. Like I think the group of prospects this year is probably one of the worst crops of top 100s that I've seen in a long time. So it's several factors. I think just the rate that guys are debuting, like they're pushing guys to debut faster. So that's obviously a thing given the shrunken roster size of the minor league level. But you also have just from the standpoint of they've cut levels. So, the competition is not as good. Teams just want to see what they've got. So they're going to be a little more aggressive. But I like Dalton Rushing a lot with the Dodgers. I know you look at that situation and you're like, where in the world is Dalton Rushing going to play?
Right. Yeah. The Dodgers. Crazy.
You have to be a stud to find a way into the Dodgers lineup. But I think that is Dalton Rushing. He's a catcher, but he started learning outfield last year. He's been putting a big focus on it this offseason, playing left field. Obviously, the Dodgers just brought in Michael Conforto. So it's like, how does this puzzle fit? But I think that Rushing's bat's too good to not find a way into the lineup. They wanted to get him on that postseason roster last year. Obviously didn't need to, but since Rushing debuted in the minors, there's like 2 hitters that have a higher xwOBA, which is wild. I mean, he hits the ball incredibly hard, ideal launch angles, on base machine. So they've got a guy here in Rushing where while there's few spots, like he could catch 2 days a week when Will Smith needs a day off. He can find the reps in the outfield. I think he's going to play. So Dalton Rushing's definitely a name to know with the Dodgers. Hit another American League one. Jackson
Don't
Jobe.
dig too deep. I'll take Jackson Jobe.
Jackson
I've got him in
Jobe.
a ton of leagues.
Yeah, Jackson Jobe. Tigers. I mean, he came up last year to pitch in the postseason. I think he got like 4 innings in the end of the regular season. But Job's a top tier pitching prospect. So he does his thing. He's seen the fastball tick up significantly since he was drafted. He's got an incredible slider. He spins the ball better than almost any pitcher in baseball, running up to like 3,200 RPM on his slider. It's kind of nuts. And he's got a good feel for command. I know he walked like 2.6% of batters in 2023, and it randomly jumped to like 12% this year, the walk rate did. But he threw as many strikes as he did. Job's thing is like, he's just not going to get beat. Like he's going to contest the corners. He's not going to give, if he's in a pitch or in a hitter's count, like he's still going to contest the corners. And if he walks a guy, he walks a guy. But I think that was really the thing we saw from him this year is that, Job just, he got better. The arsenal got better. There was some more movement in the profile. And I won't say he didn't struggle to command it. He still threw strikes, but he's just like, I'm just not going to give you anything to hit, and I'll take a walk if that's what it means. So, yeah, I think Job's a stud, and he should pitch all year in that rotation. So he's certainly one to watch out for there.
I hope they didn't ruin him for that postseason outing. They ran him through. Hated that because you're like, this guy's so promising, and it just didn't look great. But I like those guys. That's a hell of a list of guys. All top studs. Rushing is the surprise, like you said, especially with the Dodgers. I'm going to be excited to see if he actually cracks the roster, and then we can credit you to Kingdom Come. I want to do just. It could be one guy, maybe two. Flip the script. Who is a guy that the consensus loves, right? Everybody's high on that you just don't think is going to pan out?
That's a good question. There's always those guys that you see and like they get all the buzz. And the first one off the top of my head is probably Lazaro Montes with the Mariners.
Oh no,
he's incredibly fun.
No,
I mean, sorry.
Take it back. I take that question back. This sucks.
Montes, he's obviously a lot of fun, but he hits the ball incredibly hard. He hit a ball 119 miles an hour last year. I mean, and he did that at 18. So that was in 2023. He did that, which is just
smoked.
I mean, insane. Yeah. That's not a cheap shot by any means. But rushing Lazaro Montes, he made progress with the contact early in the year. Like the first month, it was like everybody's like, all right, this guy's flipped the script. Like contact rates are there. Like he's fully in breakout mode. And slowly that turned in the wrong direction. Like we saw the contact get to pretty bad levels. And it's not to say that I don't think Lazaro Montes won't be a major leaguer, because he has a ton of tools that are going to allow him to be a major leaguer. But he's talked about as like a top 20 prospect. And I think fits in the more like 75 range, just given the kind of contact skills that he has. It's well below average at the end of the day. And you look as the season kind of progressed, like I'm looking at the numbers, like June 1st forward, the K rate was above 30%. The contact rate was like 65%. And he's still at lower levels in the minors. And honestly, the contact just got worse and worse as the season went on. So he's young, so you have to you give him a pass in some sense where it's like, okay, like, he may improve, but I think that a guy that big with that long of levers, like there's always going to be some contact questions. So I think that's one. Spencer Jones is another where I think now probably the industry is kind of
caught on
lower. Yeah, they're lower than they were. I've never really been big on Spencer Jones. He's fun. He's fun. He gets the Aaron Judge comp. He's 6'7". He's a good athlete. He hits the ball hard. He's incredibly fast for his size, but the contact is just so bad. It's like, I don't know if you can make this work. And that's kind of my concern with a Spencer Jones type. But that one's kind of one where it's like, okay, people are already, I guess, come around to that, which you see Yankees Twitter though, and they think that Spencer Jones,
he's their guy.
Yeah, he'll straight up.
Well, they don't have Soto anymore, so
they have to. He's going to net him Garrett Crochet straight up, according to some people. So.
Those hypothetical trades between fan bases are obscene.
Love it.
I can't wait. It won't ever happen. But Montez ever got traded recently, or within the coming weeks, months, Mariners Twitter would melt down, but
Oh
I'll
yeah.
make sure to tag you and be like, "Don't worry, Chris said he stinks," and that'll go swimmingly with the
Oh
fan base.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
so go ahead, Andrew. You go.
Oh, I
You
was
go.
going to say, so I was going to ask, as a Braves fan, can you give me hope? You referenced the fact that we trade away our system. Like, I don't feel like we're not deep at all. Can you give me hope as far as that's concerned? Like, which prospects should I be excited about, if any, or is it just kind of meh right now?
No, and I think that you're not going to see it in a public setting. No one's going to credit the Braves for having a good farm system. And
Correct.
from a depth standpoint, it's not there. I mean,
Yeah.
just given the number of the guys they trade away, but the Braves do a tremendous job of finding guys that fit their system that they can develop.
Hmm.
They've got one of the best pitch development systems in baseball. And
Hmm.
we see it year over year. Spencer Schwellenbach this year. You can just keep going back. I mean, Strider, obviously.
Right.
And, this guy doesn't get any hype, but Drew Hackenberg is somebody that's going to pitch in Atlanta in 2025. He was
Okay.
there. He was their second round pick a couple years ago out of Virginia Tech in 2023. Everybody questioned that his numbers at Virginia Tech were terrible. They were like, what are the Braves doing? They gave him an overslot deal with that, and everybody just lost their lid. But this year, I saw him in May. He's sitting 90 to 93 with the fastball, but by season's end, he averaged 94 and was touching 96. So like
Wow.
he built on the fastball, and he's got incredible command. It's like Schwellenbach-esque commands, like low walk rate type guy. He allowed 2 home runs all season in 129 innings, which is absurd. Like it's a heavy ground ball. It's good swing and miss. He's got a solid, like slurvy curveball in the low 80s, misses bats with. He's got a changeup, upper 80s cutter too. His evolution's been really good, but he's not going to be one you'll find super high on a lot of lists, but he's in my top 10 for Atlanta. And I think
Oh, well,
that
okay.
he's on the cusp of being ready. I mean, he bumped from high to AAA last year, and he pitched well in AAA. So,
Gotcha.
he looks the part.
And so is Drake Baldwin the why we let Travis go? I mean, is that should we expect him next year to be Murphy's backup, or is there other plans you think?
Yeah, I think he's more than ready at this point. They're not going to come out and straight up say that Drake Baldwin's going to be a platoon partner, even a backup to Sean Murphy.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think that's the case. I think that he's ready. He has nothing to prove. Again, it's another case where you look at his numbers in the lower levels of the minors and they're just okay. But the Braves, their home parks from Augusta, Rome, in Mississippi, they're moving out of Mississippi, but those 3 parks from single A, high, and double A are terrible hitters environments. Like you see the numbers, and like you saw Nacho Alvarez this year go to triple A. All of a sudden he's got power. He's hitting home runs. Like Baldwin went to triple A and just absolutely raked. But Baldwin's always been one of those guys that he's always had good underlying data, really strong exit velocities his entire minor league career, really high contact. I mean, you're looking at like 81% overall contact, 85% end zone, those are really strong marks. Low chase rate, high OBP guy. I mean, his average EV last year was 92 miles an hour, which that's like, that's upper tier even for majors. That's a solid mark. And 9th percentile up over 106. Like he's going to hit some homers. I think he fits perfectly with Sean Murphy. It's a good situation to ease him into. If Murphy's healthy, like Baldwin can be the guy and come up and catch a couple days a week. Like, I think that's your best case. Murphy's inevitably going to get injured.
Yeah, well, I say that's the fear is he gets injured.
That's
And Baldwin, here you go. Welcome to the majors. So.
Yeah, he can handle it. I mean, he's solid enough behind the plate, but the bat's what you're looking for, and Baldwin's got it. So
awesome. Okay, well, that made me feel a little better. I appreciate it.
yeah, the Braves got some guys. I mean, they've still got AJ Smith-Shawver, who I still really like. Hurston Waldrop. Owen Murphy was tracking to be the best prospect in the system before he blew his arm out. Unfortunately, I was at that start, and it was they brought him out in the 8th inning for some odd reason. It was 40 degrees in Asheville, and it was raining. It was early in the season, and I don't really know why they brought him back out. He was totally fine, and they brought him out for the 8th, and the rest was kind of history there, unfortunately. But was at Cam Caminiti's debut this year, obviously their first rounder. So they just know pitchers. They find guys that fit the mold and they develop them. So while it's not going to be a Baseball America pipeline, they're going to rank the Braves farm system like 25th or worse, probably.
Yeah.
But it's just when you look into the system, like you see the guys, like they're going to develop them. Like they're going to develop a Lucas Braun type who's a boring looking pitching prospect into somebody that pitches in the majors. You've got Didier Fuentes, who's a 19-year-old pitching prospect who has incredible pitch metrics, and he's going to be in the majors in several years. Like they just have those guys, and they use a lot of them for trade bait, which is good, but
it's been good. It's worked out for us as long as we're healthy. But we had those few years where we were the top system for a couple years, and they all made it to the majors, and now we're like, we don't have anybody left. So, all right, well, I appreciate that. Made me feel a little better.
Are you in the loop on if any of these big name prospects will be on the move this offseason? To go and land major league talent, because I've been saying since now we're going on 2 years now that the Orioles need to make a move, and I don't know what they're waiting for, but it feels like they're on the cusp. Like that's just one example of a team hoarding prospects, it feels like. But, are there any other teams out there, any other players that are going to be readily available and expect to move this offseason?
Yeah, I think that you'll inevitably see that market start to transform as more guys sign. I mean, Max Fried went off the market today, obviously going to the Yankees. Corbin Burns is going to sign in the next couple of days. So as these guys sign and other teams miss out, like somebody's going to pay up for Garrett Crochet. It's going to happen at some point, and somebody's going to overpay, I think, just given the fact that they've missed. And that team looks like the Red Sox right now. The Red Sox have been the team that they're second place. They're runner up for every free agent. It feels like that's been the case for several off seasons. And so you look at what the Red Sox have. They've got the best farm system in baseball right now. They've got 6 or 7 top 100 prospects. They've got multiple in the top 50. They're going to trade out of that depth, whether Red Sox fans like it or not. Like Marcelo Meyer's probably the most expendable there, and Meyer was in history their highest draft pick they've ever had, number 4 overall. And so there's a lot of money tied up in that pick. There's a lot of name value tied up in that pick, just given that the pedigree that he had when he was drafted. And it was actually shocking that he fell to 4th overall that year. But, I think Meyer makes sense to move. You've got a Christian Campbell type who emerged this year. You could quote sell him high, but they don't want to do that. They're not trading Roman Anthony. Kyle Till's their catcher of the future. Braden Montgomery hasn't debuted. Those guys are your core, but Meyer's the most expendable. I mean, he hasn't really panned out like they've hoped. No, he made strides this year, but he was built as a high hit tool guy, and his hit tool's honestly been below average in a lot of ways. He's growing the power. Each year we've seen the exit velocities kind of take a step forward. They were solid this year, but again, he hasn't stayed healthy at any point of his career. Every season he's been hurt, and it's kind of these weird injuries that they can't figure out like what's going on. But Meyer continues to be at the top of a lot of big rankings, and teams models take into account like where MLB Pipeline's ranking these guys, where Baseball America, where Kylie McDaniel, Keith Law, where they have models that include that stuff. And so Meyer's going to grade out pretty well from a lot of perspectives because he's still top 5 on some lists. He's not there for me, but I think Meyer's probably a big name that could be on the market. You mentioned the Orioles. Yeah, the Orioles will be an interesting one because they need to do something. You've got a good lineup, but you're sitting on a pretty poor rotation. Corbin Burns, I think he's gone. I don't think he goes back to Baltimore. His contract's going to be lucrative given what Fried got.
Yes.
And so I would be shocked if he goes back to Baltimore. And so they need pitching. Do they trade for a starter? Like they have the depth. They have a ton of talent in the farm system. Like could a Kobe Mayo be traded? Like I look at that name and say, he's somebody that teams want. Like that's a top 10, top 15 prospect. Really good bat. He's a corner infielder. So if a team thinks he can play third, then they're more likely to want to acquire him. First basemen with power are more readily available. But if a team believes in Kobe Mayo, the third baseman, then that avenue is there for somebody to explore. I've been told that Samuel Basayo is not going to be moved. They love Basayo, and his bat, they've kind of talked about him being a potential like Yordan Alvarez with time. Like that's the kind of bat they think that Basayo can have. So, he's probably somebody that they are holding on to at all costs. But a Mayo, like, how does he fit into this team? And I think that nets you a pretty solid starting pitcher, and they need to kind of make a move like that to, if they're going to be serious about going deep in the postseason, they've got to have a better rotation. They can't just run Eflin and G-Rod, who have had injury concerns of their own. After that, it falls off pretty heavily. So, I think Marcelo Meyer is, if the Red Sox make a trade, I think he's the one that's probably traded. And if the Orioles make a big splash, like, I wouldn't be shocked if Mayo was involved. You have the Dodgers that are going to make some trades. They're going to have these guys that, it's depth for them, but they're solid names. They're not going to move Dalton Rushing, but they're going to move guys. The Phillies are an interesting one because their system's not the best. They're not moving Painter, but like you look at like a Justin Crawford, Carl's son, he could warrant.
Wait, that's Carl Crawford's kid?
Yeah, Justin Crawford.
I mean, I do know who Justin Crawford is, but I did not draw that connection.
That makes me feel old.
Right?
Come on.
Yep. That's for sure.
My day. Good Lord. All right. Sorry. Justin Crawford.
Yeah. No, I think the Crawford's probably, like, if the Phillies did make a trade, Crawford's the one that people are after. Like, knowing that Andrew Painter's not going to be moved. Crawford's, he's a Blazer. He's got 70, 80 grade run times. He's great in center field. Like, makes a lot of contact, hits the ball hard, often into the ground, though. But he's one that teams are going to be after for sure. But that'd be a big name for a lot of people. So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to kind of see how it all shakes out. The trade market will be interesting for sure. I think the Giants could look to make a trade. Do they move Bryce Eldridge, though? Probably not. And, the system's good, but at the same time, it's like, okay, after Bryce Eldridge, it's not as interesting. Like, Eldridge is your best prospect by far, in my opinion. So,
yeah,
but they're one that could make a move.
And it'll be interesting, like you said, just the way these contracts are going. If teams are going to opt out of, not trying to go the free agency route, they're going to have to spend, right? Seattle is holding on to these major league pitchers. And if all these pitchers are going to sign these big deals, like, well, you want to trade for them, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. And you're talking major league talent plus prospects plus, probably money. I'm sure they're going to want everything they possibly can. And that's just speaking from a Seattle perspective. I can't believe Carl Crawford. That's Carl Crawford's kid. That's his kid.
It is.
I watched Carl Crawford in the minors in Scranton, actually. Anyway, I have one more question, and from this back to Dynasty Fantasy Baseball. When it comes to fantasy baseball, most times you're playing for money. So while the Dynasty perspective is awesome, I still want to win.
Yeah.
So where let's call it a, I don't know, 10 to 12 team league, 6 to 8 minor leaguers. Where do you draw the line in I'm gonna go and win, or I'm gonna hoard these minor leaguers and hope they're good? Because I know the answer is in between, right? You want, okay, I have one or two guys and all this, but I am of the mindset is I just want to win. I paid money for this. And if I have to hold on, if I have to trade, who did I trade? I think I just traded Jordan Lawler and I got Seth Lugo. I was like, screw it. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
So where do you land on that?
I always play to win. So I'm always trading prospects. My mentality is that prospects in a dynasty perspective are used to churn and burn, and people hug prospects. And obviously, especially if they're a prospect on the team that they root for. So that matters. And they're going to want those guys. You exploit those things. And so very rarely are prospects untouchable. the last prospect I really felt was like untouchable from a dynasty perspective was like a Gunnar Henderson and Corbin Carroll several years ago. The crop now, I don't see any untouchables. I would trade Roman Anthony at the right cost. I'd trade Sebastian Walcott at the right cost. I trade a lot of those guys. And so very rarely am I hoarding them or seeing them mature from draft all the way to the majors, because I'm pretty confident in the ability to find those next guys. And so I'd rather just churn the roster over and over and over and get major league talent and play to win. Kind of like the Braves. Like that's kind of their strategy. Is like, let's replenish it, trade for major league talent, and we'll find the guys deeper in the draft. So that's typically what I'm always playing to win.
I couldn't agree more. And that's my mindset on the major league level too, to an extent, right? So the Braves model, while sometimes it feels like it stinks, right? When all your guys are hurt and you don't have anybody to come up, right? Just how but on a normal season, assuming health, which is a bad thing to do right now for the Braves, but assuming everybody's healthy, they're in as good a shape as everybody else. Everybody forgot about them because their whole team got hurt. But to start the season, they're a top, I don't know, at worst, at top 18, number 8 at the worst.
You mean the entire major leagues, right? Not just in that. Okay, just making sure. I'm just making sure.
You get my point. I know. I'm just saying that people haven't talked about them much, and they're always right at the top of everything because they're just out of it. But the way they operate is nice, but from a perspective of hoarding prospects, they are far from that. And I think they're in a spot where it's tough for them to trade because of that lack of prospect.
Yeah, if we don't sign people, we're in a lot of trouble for sure.
That's the truth.
Not a fun place to be, but it is what it is. I mean, look, we have signed really young talent for a long time on contracts that don't look like Juan Soto, so it's something to be celebrated. So we have about 3 more years before Acuna has to get paid that kind of money. So we'll get the best out of it, I hope. All right, so is there any other prospect you want to highlight? I know we've done a lot of talking. Anything that you're really excited about that you haven't touched on yet?
No, not off the top of my head. Like, if there's any other questions you guys have, I'm more than happy to answer them. A lot of prospects I'm excited about. I could ramble quite a while.
We might have to do a trade, a mid-season check-in as well, because we're gonna have you're gonna have the college season ramping up, right? So then you'll be are you super tuned into the draft? Like, do you get into guys at the college level, or do you kind of try to stop it at? I mean, I know you spit out stats like crazy on some of those other guys, so it seems like you're into the college realm too.
Yeah, I try to be. It's harder, mostly going to just minor league games, but definitely in tune with watching college ball, the data. Yeah, the prep side is hard, but basically I'm digging into the prep side like at least deeper post draft. Like once guys have drafted, like a Griffin Burkholder, like not somebody I was super in tune with like before the Phillies drafted him, but you dig in kind of after that and you see some of the data points and it's like, okay, like this guy's really intriguing. Or today I found Ethan Wagner that the Astros took in the 17th round. He went to P27 Academy in Lexington, South Carolina, but he's somebody I was just digging into as I'm writing up the Astro system. Like didn't know this guy existed prior to the draft, but now I really kind of am intrigued what they can do with him. So yeah, much more in tune with minor league, but definitely do the digging on the prep and the high school side.
Awesome.
Well, man, this is great. We're like I said, we'll definitely going to have you on. Make sure we're talking about the prospects the same way we were now, right? We don't want to miss anybody. So all the guys you spoke up, they're all gonna hit. All the guys we shit on, we're gonna poo on them. No, I'm joking. And we're gonna go see some drive baseball.
Absolutely.
Like to go check out a game or two with you. I know you're probably inside the fence, but we'll get you on our side.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. I know it's you had some power problems earlier, so thank you for jumping on with us and talking some ball. We're definitely going to have you on again, and we look forward to sharing a beer with you soon.
Yeah, had a blast. Thank you both for having me.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.